Good morning. This is the last day of the Dunkaway retreat. Still another few hours to go. Before I give the Dharma talk this morning, I'd like to thank everyone for supporting this community. Those of you who support by attending, and those of you who support by attending and helping with our finances. This is an organization that does not produce a product or a service in the transactional sense of the word. It does provide something, but that comes from you, not from this. So thank you, and please continue to help us if you can. This morning's talk is titled Illusion Speaks. Illusion speaks. Illusion speaks. You're listening to it. This is just a way of talking about it. It doesn't mean that table isn't hard or light isn't bright or rocks in the ground isn't hard or water doesn't get things wet. Water doesn't get itself wet, though. So just to clear that up for you. Later on today, there will be a talk at 4 o'clock called Illusion Listens. But if you're not signed up for the retreat, you won't be able to hear that one. Or observe, watch. So what is this about? What am I endeavoring to talk about when I say that something that is not real is talking? That's exactly what it is. This is the very nature of the two truths. Relative truth, this is here. The sun comes up, it's dark. Later on, it will be, did I get that backwards? Don't make a mistake about the sun comes up and everything's dark. See the difference between those. Anytime you grasp at something, you take all of its light away. A lot of room for questions there, but not yet. What we think is so real and we grasp at to get more of it because we love it, we like it, we want it, we need it. We have to have that in our life. You all probably have 2 or 3 dozen of those things, maybe more. But we want to keep away. So we grasp at that in the sense that we push it away, which is a kind of grasping. Stop it, make it go away. And sometimes we have some success and other times we don't. And sometimes we blame ourselves because we're not good enough. Not strong enough. We don't have enough confidence, all kinds of descriptions. All of them are unreal. But they're speaking to us. They're speaking right in our ears. I am speaking to you. This illusion is speaking, and this illusion knows that this is an illusion. There's a big difference because there's no way I can lie to you. And there's no way I can tell you the truth. You have to see it. There's no one hearing this. If there's someone hearing this, and there's someone speaking this, this is the very nature of illusion, is to grasp at relative truth, duality. To see what this is doesn't mean you'll stop speaking. You might speak more. It doesn't mean you'll stop listening. You might listen more. But you will see that there's no solid speaker anywhere. There's no solid listener anywhere. Illusion speaks. See it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it, think it, receive. Don't produce. You might have to start out with seeing that everything that shows up in your mind stream, or anything that comes out of through your vocal cords, or anything that is coming at you is unreal. And it is unreal in the sense that it has no solid character to it that is substantial. It has a solid character to it that is insubstantial. It goes away. The light comes up, and then we have darkness later on. Things get wet and water evaporates. So nothing stays the same. It keeps changing. Impermanence. Basic teaching of the Buddha is nothing lasts. Another basic teaching of the Buddha is everything is in a state of distress or suffering or loss. If it's existing, then that's going to be a primary experience of being alive. And of course, the last one, which those of you who have studied this know about, which is everything is without an ongoing self. There is no self in anything. Nothing has its own self nature. Ni svabhava is a fancy word if you need to go there. Ni svabhava. Svabhava, being. Ni is a negative. Don't believe it, don't disbelieve it, don't ignore it. Just receive. Start by training your mind. Sit down, hold still, face the wall, and see the complete absence of any kind of a self or being or centrality to anything. It's without a center. And as Trungpa Rinpoche would say, it's without a fringe. There's no center, there's no fringe. So illusion speaks. Whatever is being said by this old man or in your mind about what you're saying to yourself, little mini lectures you give yourself to help reify, substantiate, reinforce your sense of what? Identity. I'm the one who's losing. I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not going to be able to make this work. I don't know. Who can I ask for help? I can't trust anybody. Or the other one is, everybody's full of it. Only I know. Only I can do this. Every now and then you'll hear that come out of someone's mouth. And it's an illusion, and it's speaking. So if you know that it's an illusion and you continue to speak, and you know that it's an illusion and you continue to listen, what's the difference? What's the difference? How can you get fooled by something that is an illusion, that is unreal? Let's start this way. How can you get fooled by it? Is that the way we started? Did I go the other way? Tell me. You with the crystal clear memory. What did I say first? Don't know. I said it, but you just don't know what it was. Okay. I'll let you off the hook right now. So do you know? Does anybody here know what I said? Did anyone retain just a few words that I said and can repeat them to me? It's not a test. I just have a bad memory. Lighten up. This is unreal. This is unreal. It's vividly, as Trungpa Rinpoche said, it's vividly unreal in emptiness. It's a still form. It's vividly unreal. It doesn't get like more and more cloudy and mist. No, it gets sharper and brighter, and it stings and it burns. It's hot and cold. It's dry and wet. It has all the qualities of relative truth intensely, because you're not, adding your stupid ideas to it, trying to provide some kind of a network or some kind of guidance so you'll know what to grasp and what to reject. Don't grasp anything, don't reject anything, and don't ignore anything. That's the teaching as it comes through this person here from the lineage of the Buddha. All the Buddhas down through the centuries to this person, this speaker, this sound of words that are an illusion, are pointing at the illusion. Don't believe it. Don't disbelieve it. And of course, don't look away, ignore it, or distract yourself from it by anything, if you can. And the process of training the mind seems to be an awareness dynamic that has to do with seeing how much you keep pushing and how much you keep grasping and how much you keep distracting yourself. So you can't actually accomplish those, but the instruction is to endeavor to do that so that you get an idea of how much you are entrained by your karma, by your causes and conditions that cause you to show up as a singular person somewhere, going in some direction, having certain kinds of emotions and so on that substantiate, reify, and support the illusion that there is a speaker, the illusion there is someone walking. It takes a long time. It takes a lot of effort, just effort to get to the cushion, get to the wall, sit down, hold still, or look at the grass in your backyard, look at a tree, look at the side of your garage. Outside if it's summer, inside if it's winter. Probably didn't need that kind of help. And whatever shows up, but it's unreal. It has a reality, a relative reality, but it is not ultimate. And what is ultimate reality? There's no way you can describe it. There are different images that we sometimes use, that people who understand that and are inspired by that aspect of reality that is of the two truths that is called ultimate truth. My way of saying it, and an image that came long before I got here, I just happened to use it, is like, it's not the same, but it is like the sky. The sky does not appear. It's just nothing is there, so it's a sky. But when something comes into it, like a cloud or a bird or an airplane, then we know it's the sky. Otherwise, it would just be that, blue or black.
Shodo bowing. How is illusion as you're teaching it different from something like nihilism, where it doesn't matter, like there's no meaning? Bowing.
Well, delusion, as I'm talking about it, is to see that you're deluded. In other words, to see completely that you're deluded is awakening. This is what the Buddha saw. The Buddha did not see castles in the sky, didn't see some kind of quality of state of mind called holiness, or some kind of state of mind called really feel good because I see the fundamental nature of reality kind of thing. He saw the delusion, confusion, chaos. He saw it. And what you're referring to as nihilism is having an opinion, a stand, a conclusion about the chaos, or about the nihilistic. It doesn't matter. Nothing can be saved. Everything is doomed to failure. Nihilistic, negative. Sometimes Buddhism is referred to as a nihilistic religion, because by people who never have studied it, other than maybe read a book on it by Alan Watts, or maybe somebody a little bit better than that, just because of the teaching of suffering, because it's not part-time, it's complete full-time suffering. Anytime you have nerve endings, you have suffering. And here, all these receptors suffer more.
Shodo bowing. How is suffering present in situations where it looks pleasurable? Bowing.
Won't last. So it's called a pain of alternation. You're having a really good time doing something, but you're also looking at your watch because you know time's running out. This will go away. This won't last. Can't maintain the suffering or the pleasure, grasping at it. So they're trying to maintain, make that continue, or continuing to look at your watch until it comes time to go back into that pleasure again. Created by all kinds of things. Could be drugs. It could be just some kind of activity that you really, really enjoy, in the sense that it takes your mind away from the things that you're covering up, your suffering. So it's still suffering, it's just that it's covered up by pleasure. More.
Shadow bowing. If we see what this is there still that relative, are there still times that we're not experiencing suffering? No.
Yes, which is also to not experience suffering is also suffering. You can only go so far with the words, because they start to get tangled up in grasping is one thing and rejecting something else. They get tied up in the very modality we're using to even talk about the spiritual path. So this is why quite often, especially in the Zen tradition, that teachers will talk one direction and then pull the student out on a limb and then break the limb, so that they have they'll give them a reference point that gets them out on the limb and then take it away from them, so that you actually begin to realize what this is, that it's without a self, it's without an other, and it's without coming and going. Nothing is occurring would be another way of saying it. Another way of teaching, this has been taught down through the centuries, is the teaching of emptiness, or shunyata. More.
Shadow bowing.
Take one more and then I'll come to Go ahead.
How can we see something's an illusion but still participate in it? Bowing.
So as you look at the unreality of what this is, you see that you're not separate from it. It takes a while. For a while, you're observing that unreality, and then over time, it takes time of not grasping, not rejecting, and not turning away, to see that which is observing and that which is being observed are not separate. There isn't any separate thing. That's why it is completely all-consuming. It just eats itself up, so there isn't anything. There's no one eating. There's nothing being eaten. Nothing has occurred. Sometimes in different ways referred to as threefold. It's threefold purity, that nothing was actually ever even soiled. It's that pure. Go ahead. Have one more? Go ahead, sir.
I don't have the wording exact, but you said something like, when you grasp something, you extinguish its light.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
You cover up what it is, and what it is ultimate. There isn't anything but ultimate truth, and there's no other. Even relative truth is running a close second. No pun intended. You're not following me, are you? You know why? I'm not going anywhere. Can't follow somebody that's not going anywhere. It's just this. But if you try to cling to it, or you try to grasp it, you cover up its light. The light it has to be complete respect for everything. You have to respect confusion. You have to respect suffering. If you try to cover up your own suffering, you're covering up your own Buddha nature. That doesn't mean it's nihilistic, that you have to fluff up or puff up your suffering so you can get closer to Buddhahood. There's plenty of suffering around. Receive the suffering of others. See what it is. Receive it, receive it. Save all beings, be with all things. You're wearing a monk's robe. Look at your vow. Look at that vow every day. And if you're not wearing a monk's robe, I'm not telling you to go sew one. You shouldn't do anything you don't have to do. If you just do what you have to do, you do a lot less than you're doing now, more than likely. Any question?
Beyond bowing. What is imagination as it relates to illusion?
It's the same thing.
Same thing.
But it's propelled, imagination that's propelled by enjoyment or pleasure, or possibly even boredom, or just wanting to make stuff up. But the imagination that is propelled by fear is the one that creates the self-centeredness, takes an aspect of consciousness and wads it up into a dark ball that is really worried about continuing to exist. when there never was anything there in the first place other than consciousness only, which is without a center or a self. Just because there's a body here, that's no proof of anything. Because the body, this body, this body, this body, these are very, very temporary. More?
Even bowing, I have a couple. The first is, what is the relationship between imagination and consciousness? I kind of lost you when you described the ball of consciousness. Whose imagination is it?
Just imagination. It doesn't belong to anyone. It looks like it does. That's where we get the ego, the someone who is being helped or being harmed or getting ahead, falling behind, or being very, very creative or being not so creative.
How can imagination be perfect when it appears to create so much suffering?
Life is suffering. If you're a living being, if consciousness has been downloaded into a living form, whether it's a ground squirrel or a human being, there's nerve endings. And if some aspect of consciousness, which is happy to do whatever shows up, it always finds whatever form it needs. When I say needs, we might not be able to track it back into the original grasping or desire for something else. It could be just as simple as consciousness wanting to have some kind of a form in space. So it might have started out with an asteroid, which is just as alive as a ground squirrel, just in a different way. That's only part of the answer. You're gonna have to drag the rest of it out of me.
There's pleasure and pain at the nerve endings you described.
Yes.
We perceive pleasure and pain. Where do those meet somewhere where they are one, and where do those meet? Kind of follow an analogy.
I don't know what it is you want to know. Can you get me close to that?
Where do pleasure and pain become the same, or do they?
No, they're already the same. They don't transition into something else. The transitioning is part of the illusion, thinking something occurs.
And what divides them?
Your mind, grasping at this, rejecting that, shutting down, opening up, greed, wanting things to be different than they are. The second noble truth of the Buddha creates the first noble truth, suffering. So it's a way of talking about it. But if you go in there with hammer and tong and try to pull it apart and see, does this really hold up logically? It does for a while, but eventually when you get to the fundamental understanding, then there is no conclusion. There's nothing that comes together as, okay, now I see what he was pointing at now. You may never say that.
Even bowing, is the illusion manipulated by training the mind?
A little bit. And that you're doing something that the illusion is not supported. The illusion is not particularly supported by going and looking at the illusion, because then you begin to see it starts to break down. You begin to see that it's just made up of a lot of parts. And then you look at the singularity of the parts and you see even those are made up of little parts. And these little parts are all getting together and forming this or that, or this happy situation or this sad situation. It's the grasping that creates the suffering, wanting something else. One who sees, even if you're in a human form, one who sees what this is fundamentally may suffer incredibly, but they don't differentiate between that and pleasure. And I'm not kidding you. I would not lead you astray. What the ego wants to do is get rid of the suffering. And what the wisdom mind does is nothing. It doesn't pick and choose, because it's not separate from the most intense suffering. It's not separate from the most intense pleasure at all. But the ego mind wants to keep away this and do that, and it does it through grasping at a form. And what form is available? The human form, body, nerve endings, fingertips, appetite, desire, fear of the dark, fear of the unknown, going this way, going that, don't do this, do that. Our whole society is made up of hope and fear, of crime and punishment. It's just everywhere. Those people who are, instead of helping people who are having a hard time, we punish them. Just look at any, go to the Michigan Department of Corrections. Is Sanho here? Sanho, where are you? Apparently he's not. But anyway, Sanho is a recently joined as a community member here, and he's also an attorney. And at some point, I'm going to talk about this. I'm kind of joking about this, but I think it's interesting to say, take the Michigan Department of Corrections to court and see if they've managed to correct anything. Their sign is advertising Michigan Department of Corrections. I don't see where they're correcting anybody. They're just punishing people. If they said the Michigan Department of Punishment, then maybe I couldn't sue them. But they're not helping anybody. Some of you have done prison work. Yes, sir.
Can I see the light through the grasping?
Can you see the light? Yes. But you might not recognize what it is, because you might see that and think, well, something's missing. Or you might think, well, that can't be it. That's too simple. Ego language will come up, oh, that can't be it. The ego is always looking for an angle somewhere. The self-consciousness, the me feeling and everything is looking for some kind of a angle on things so it can continue to enjoy itself in that illusion as something, somebody who is real. If you see what this is, I'm not saying you will voluntarily die, but you won't be frightened of death, because you know that who you are cannot come to an end, because it's not begun. The sky didn't begin. The sky is space. So space can't begin. Only asteroids can begin, or Earth, or squirrels. They begin. I really like squirrels. You? They're all gonna die. Along with us, we're all going. This can't last. Yes, sir.
Shoto bowing. Earlier, you looked at us all and said, lighten up.
Yes.
And can we lighten up and still see, lighten up and not turn away from the suffering we're experiencing?
I think that's the only way you can do it. Because otherwise, if we start to clamp down, we start to blame. I'm not saying that there aren't causes and conditions for everything, but if we start to go in there, then we misunderstand the situation as it is. It's not separate from the most brilliant light, but our cloudiness, our darkness, and our pushing down, changing the angle of things, trying to manipulate things so we can have more control over that. It's just difficult. This doesn't mean we go the other way and say, like I said, lighten up. I mean, that was meant to be funny. Was it funny? A little bit. Yes, since you
bowing, this morning Rumi asked me if...
Slow down, I want to make sure I get this one. Rumi, your son, who is 4 going on 58, asked you what?
He asked me if his brain is where his imagination is. And
So what lie did you tell him?
I said it has something to do with his imagination.
That's not too bad. Why didn't you just tell him the truth?
What is that?
I don't know. We don't really know that. There's speculation because science can't stand to have something that it doesn't know something about. So it just guesswork. And as soon as it's shown that it's guesswork, then we say, oh, it's really this, because then we have some kind of proof. But the proof that we have is just an endless circling around. But go ahead. You.
With something like imagination or thought, which seems so boundless, does it have a central location?
Nothing has, there's anything that has location. Location is a lie, just like time is a lie. It's a really convincing one because we watch things come and go. But the coming and going is the illusion. That's the illusion. It's like a flickering screen in an old, what they used to call still call them flicks, don't they? It's the little individual pictures going with a lens and a projecting light through that, and then it turns off and on, and it looks like a motion picture, but it's just a series of things. More. What you could do with him, something what his dad was saying in the Dharma talk, and Sokuzan was saying in the Dharma talk, you could break down the actual word, which was what he was suggesting in his talk yesterday. My interpretation, not his necessarily, but you could take down the word. What do you mean by imagination? How do you understand that word? And then you could go into, as soon as that gets cleared up a little bit, maybe from his point of view, because he will speculate on it. And then you could go into brain. What do you mean by brain? And then, but nobody really knows what the brain is. They can describe it. They can talk about it. They can talk about electrical this and that and synapses, and they can actually take a needle and stick it in there, and you'll think, I'm remembering when I was in Utah in 1946, and this was happening. That memory came back vividly. You can even do that and have memories of concrete, but it's there. It's the way I often talk about this is was a chartreuse alligator, pink alligator in the kitchen. Once you create that, you can't destroy it because the way in which it's created has no fundamental nature to it, as far as being wood or a lampshade or the side of a German Shepherd running down the road with bright lights attached to it. You've seen that? How often do you see a German Shepherd with bright lights attached to it? Right now you see it. And you can't go. You can think about that 10 years from now. You can't destroy that. Good question. What did you say?
Thank you.
To him?
Oh, to
To
him.
me? Oh,
No.
you're saying thank you to me?
Yes.
Well, you're welcome.
In response to that question,
Yes.
I said the brain has something to do
That's right. We
with
did
his
say.
imagination.
But then you're reifying his presumption about the brain or about the imagination when you're not going against it by going in. He's listening to us by the way right now, and but by questioning him about that, then you actually help him to look closer into the material that he is even asking about. This is what Sokuzan was doing yesterday in his really great Dharma talk that he gave. Hondo.
Is part of why life is suffering because we are not separate? So in other words, there's so much suffering in the world, and we're not separate.
Yes, it is three types of pain that are taught, and I'm not saying there aren't other ways of looking at it. Is the pain of pain, which we all know about that. Something hurts, we have a toothache, we lose our best friend or something like that. We have that kind of pain or anxiety. And then the pain of alternation, which is things are really great right now, but it's not, it's not going to last. And then there's the pain of the composite, or the pain of conditioned existence, which is, this is when you as a student of a true spiritual path begin to see that the pain that belongs to no one. And this is at the same time, also you're beginning to realize that your consciousness does not belong to you. It's not your consciousness. And you are beginning to, you can say experience, it's not exactly experience like this, like a sound, or like this sight. It's not exactly like that. It is much more out of the realm of plus and minus existence, non-existence, of appears and doesn't appear. It's away from the polarity of it, so that's much more difficult to see, but you begin to realize that consciousness has no owner. So your own thoughts are not even your own, and yet we're trying to stop them or have really good thoughts or not have negative thoughts. We're trying to manipulate things based on a misunderstanding of time, or the index or the concept of time, and a misunderstanding of the concept of space. So this is why what Rumi was asking, you could actually go in and help him. You're not educating him, he's educating himself, but you help him by not settling for that first question. Actually allow him. They're not doing this in school. A terrible, terrible education system. It's just about getting people to remember stuff, which is a good idea, but it should come out of the situation rather than out of some kind of a test. It's just ridiculous. That's all about controlling people. It's a very macho approach. Hi, Kelsey. Who's that little person with you?
That's Evelyn. Hi.
Hi. How's it going? Apparently it's going okay. With a smile like that. Yes, sir.
Sokuzan, what is the importance of participating in the culture that we're in when they do teach or educate in that way?
Well, participate, but that doesn't mean you have to approve of it. But you're there, we're here, we live in this city. Some places, teachers, different, the Waldorf school is a good example of a little bit different angle on the whole thing, which has been around for a long time. Maria Montessori also developed a way of helping children to be responsible for what they did, and ways by putting them kind of in charge of their lives as soon as possible, so they're able to decide whether they're going to walk this way or walk that way. So coming back to your question, you cannot help someone or something or a society unless you first stop separating yourself from it in a warlike fashion, intensely intensely objecting to it, so that that's wrong, that's bad, or jumping on that, and a lot of criticism. It'd be better to go into it and change it from the inside, so to speak. And how would you do that? Probably lots of ways. One is be a teacher. More?
Sokuzan, just thinking about how in the coming years we're going to have to look for how to participate in this culture with Aya in regards to education.
Your son.
Yeah.
So train him yourself, teach him yourself. A lot more work. You can't just turn him over to a place where he's going to be taught. That's one way. You can also participate in the school system. Go in and talk to the teacher, find out something that never happened when probably most of us were young. There was no interaction. The PTA, the Parent Teacher Association, was more of a political structure rather than actually looking at how your young person is being educated. No, I wouldn't worry about it. There's a lot more pressing issues that are happening right now. Now I'm going to take that question right out. We need to stop polluting this place. And if we don't, then what is showing up is going away. But who you actually are, who any of you actually are, you're at your true nature. I'm encouraging you. I yell at you. I would yell at you about this. Because if I can't, it's like, aren't you listening to me? I'm looking at this. Find out who you are. Because if you don't, then you'll operate out of who you think you are. And that's what the rest of the world is doing. That's why there's so much war. Good people, bad people, misunderstanding. And that's like the school system or any other system that's based on right and wrong, up and down, back and forth. punish war and peace, crime and punishment, all of that. More?
Shoto bowing. How does the education system that you're pointing out not support the people who do well in it? Bowing.
It's just encouraging them to pursue a materialistic approach to everything. Money making, power, having lots of power over every other people. It's just insane. It's not only the insanity of the highly conservative, well, they call it conservative, but it's not, doesn't fit, that word doesn't fit at all. It's just power hungry, and it's not that it doesn't help them get more power. And it's not that the people who see that that might not be fair to the rest of society, the people who are homeless, living on the streets of whatever, Philadelphia or Los Angeles in cardboard boxes. We don't take care of them. We say anything, you say, get a job, they need to get jobs. Just so what is your question? I'll try to be more direct. It's about training our mind to see what is true ourselves, and you have to see it here. You can't see it out there. You can't look out here and see it. It's chaotic. You have to look at the chaos that's here. And if you're covering it up with your beliefs, your opinions, your hopes and fears, and your jealousy, and your grievance with yourself or with others, then you won't see it, and you'll actually hurt yourself and torture others rather than actually see what this is. If you see what this is, the war is over. That doesn't mean you aren't going to fight with people. You might even fight even harder with someone. I mean that. I mean, what's the old saying? Pick your battles. Well, pick your battles. And my battle is not actually a battle. It's not a war. But I want, whatever time I have left, we could say this about anyone, but I want to make sure that I say that. Find out who you are. Don't get your identity from me, from Buddhism, from Christianity, from Islam, from indigenous people, from ayahuasca, from anything. Don't get it from anything but this. Go by yourself. Go be by yourself. Face the wall. Face your refrigerator. Face the kitchen cabinet. Hold still. Watch the movement of the mind and watch the way you keep lying to yourself. And when I say yourself, you create the self and then you lie to it. Or you create the self and you lecture it. Or you criticize yourself. Or you fluff yourself up. Or you ignore that. Passion, aggression, and ignorance. Don't do that. You can do this yourself. You might need a push. That's what I'm here to do. But I'm wearing a robe because this teaching has been around for thousands of years. And it's taught differently by each person. Some people are teaching this, have thousands, if not millions of students. Dalai Lama, which is a true teacher, but he's teaching out of his culture, heritage, and his birth as a tulku. Go ahead.
He's bowing. When imagination speaks, is it always erroneous?
How's it look to you?
Always is a harsh word, but it looks to me like that is the case.
So what I would say next, I'm not going to do a lot of this here, but just to give you a taste, is what do you mean by the case?
I feel that the things that come up in my mind
That's
are there to
Right.
fool me.
they're what? They're there to fool
They're
you?
fooling.
That's, I would agree with that, yes. Everything that shows up is wrong. Wasn't it? What was that show? Was it Saturday Night Live or something where they say everything you know is wrong? Something like that. And I'm not here to take away knowledge. I'm not saying, no, we have to just No, we study, if you come here, you'll find that we study extremely complicated, erudite information about the nature of consciousness as it has been handed down through the centuries by lots of different great teachers. This bug is trying to tell me something. So we're not going to get rid of that, but let's include everything and see and let it sort itself out. And if things are really allowed to sort themselves out, to use that kind of silly way of saying it, what is really important will show up right in front of you, because you're not looking for something. Don't look for anything. Look right at it, whatever is there. And it may be the feeling that you don't know what you're looking for. Look at that. That is looking directly at the imaginary self, parakalpita, the imaginary nature, the one that keeps concocting ideas about who you are, where you're going, how you're doing well, how you're not doing so well. Please don't hesitate. Come this way. Go ahead.
Shokubang, what is the lie when we're embarrassed about something that we're seeing in our minds?
What is the lie that when we're embarrassed? That an aspect of the consciousness is that thinks there is someone, that you are someone that can succeed or fail. That part is something that's happening that makes that part of the consciousness that believes there's somebody is embarrassed, or is thinking, phew, I got that wrong. I need to look more closely at that. But it's about being right and not being embarrassed about being wrong and not wanting to be embarrassed. If you begin to see who you are relatively, it's embarrassing, because we grasp at that imaginary self, right and wrong, up and down, back and forth. You don't have to stop doing that. This is what the ego will tell you. Well, there's ways to change that, correct that, be better. All kinds of things. Some forms of meditation teach getting better, improving, being less self-centered, being more peaceful. I don't teach that. I say, you may become more peaceful, you may not. You may have to go through a whole pile of crap of your past, whatever, blockages, or ignoring something about your personality or your kite in the sky. Something you're not willing to look at that. You may have to actually look and be responsible, receive that craziness, that suffering, and also receive the embarrassment that comes without covering it up, without explaining it, without blaming somebody else, without blaming yourself, just embarrassment. It was very, very embarrassing to me when I began to realize that I had met a true teacher, Gobind, and had basically, I could not see what he was telling me. And I kept trying to pretend that I knew. And it was embarrassing when it finally caught up with me about 6 months before he passed away, of what he was pointing at. And I teach out of it all the time. He gave me one teaching. You don't take precepts, you observe them. I might have been told that by others. I might have read it somewhere. It's not exactly arcane information or secret. It was embarrassing. More. Okay.
I have some questions from YouTube.
Yes.
Zub bowing. Part 1, this is a question from Jamie. How does an empathic person deal with composite suffering day to day without letting it affect one's mood negatively?
Let it affect your mood. Allow your emotions to come and go. Just be an observer. And that doesn't mean that some of that observation isn't going to be how crappy I feel, or I don't want to live any longer, or I don't think I'm ever going to accomplish this. Some people are going through that. Other people might be not quite so intense. But observe it, watch what it does. Don't leave what is arising for what you think about it. Don't leave what is arising in the mind stream for what you think it is, or what you think it means, or something else about it. The very nature of confusion and the circularity, amazing circularity of relative truth, going around in circles, samsara, going around and around. Another one?
This one is from Ath.
Spell that, please.
ATH.
Okay.
Last name or other name Alm, ALM, Ath Alm. How to go through life without not giving a shit about how we feel. Fear, anxiety are so real, so hard to ignore no matter how many hours we face the wall.
No. So you have to be responsible for those. You can't ignore it. I mean, you can. There are ways to ignore. There are ways to shut down or turn away or occupy yourself, distract yourself, occupy yourself with some really, watchmaking or something. Counting nuts on a walnut tree. Never-ending task. There are ways to distract yourself from it. But what's being said here is sit down, hold still, go right into it. And there's no gas mask for that. You have to do it. You have to do it yourself. You have to march right into the negativity, as Trungpa Rinpoche once said. March directly into disappointment. Disappointment awaits, as it says on my cup here. And so more time on the wall. And the other algorithm that I highly recommend is the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, however that shows up for you. You're going to have a teacher, maybe more than one. You're going to have a teaching that you can actually go to and that has some understanding and has some kind of longevity to it. And maybe other things I'm not even thinking about. And there needs to be a community, no matter how irritating they are. Do it anyway. Yes.
There's a chat question from Harrison Homer.
Harrison.
How is imagination different than basic thought?
We could go in, like I was saying to Senchu, she's suddenly gotten very small. Senchu, I think she ran away because something that Rumi wanted to talk to her or something. So the differentiation there, I think, is just basic thought is something is being produced through the dependent origination, just the thoughts that arise in anyone's mind as you go along and bump into this and run away from that. And then the thoughts that you produce out of the self-centered part of the mind, or the seventh consciousness, as it is described in the Yogacara tradition, of wanting something else and not liking this, and this isn't fair to me, and this blah, 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 all the pride and prejudice that shows up in that area of consciousness that has shrunk into a me feeling, I, me, and my stuff, my ideas, what I need to do for myself. And this I is there relatively, but it's temporary. You're going to die. He laughed. We all are going to die. If you see what this is, you realize you've never really even lived as you thought you were. You lived as a temporary being. That which is real is neither alive nor dead. There's more to that question, though. Imagination and basic thought. I would say that the basic thought is just a kind of a processing area. As it talks about, the sixth consciousness is just processing things and synchronizing the relationship between what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're smelling, what you're tasting, what you're receiving from past karma, what happened 30 years ago, what happened 15 lifetimes ago. This does not go away necessarily. It can change, it can modify. And then imagination is possibly different ways of talking about it. I would rather talk it over with Rumi first, who's actually beginning to experience this imagination and actually use it. Unusual to run into a 4-year-old that can make up jokes. Isn't that right, Rumi? Yeah, good. Got a thumbs up there. So the difference would be, one is very active in producing something, and the other one is active in receiving. But the other one that's acting in receiving can also align itself in the form of imagination called paranoia, an imagination that is crazy or is schizophrenic, or to use the conventional Western terms, wanting this or being afraid of something by projecting onto it that it's dangerous, when really who you are cannot be harmed. I'm not saying someone can't kill you, but they can't hurt you. If you realize who you are, they can't hurt you with anything. This doesn't mean you'll stop suffering. You may continue to suffer. If you're a living being, you're going to suffer. The Buddha didn't take away in the third noble truth cessation by that took away the suffering. Something else that is going to cease, and that is grasping, rejecting, and ignoring. The sense of a being will still be there. It's imaginary. Jishin, go ahead.
Jishin bowing. What does it mean that wisdom is not separate from suffering? Bowing.
It's just a way of talking about a duality that keeps us away, keeps us running away from suffering to try to find our idea of wisdom. We just split ourselves up, and there are all kinds of things, advertisements for how to do this, how to be happy, how to do this and do that. Oh, there you are. So, and they're not separate in that if you see the suffering, this is wisdom. Wisdom isn't a thing. It has no status as a thing. Even consciousness, we say consciousness, but it has no status as something. It's more like the space in which so-called things or phenomena appear. Without those things appearing, then is there consciousness? We'll find out. Don't believe anything I say.
Does wisdom suffer? Bowing.
Suffering may continue, but the sufferer, the identity will not be positioning itself in such a way that it can avoid suffering, or positioning itself in a way through the imagination that it can get some particular person to stop torturing them or making their life miserable or happy.
Where is the wisdom in that individual suffering? Does it suffer itself? Bowing.
Wisdom is not separate from anything. Wisdom just sees wisdom everywhere it looks, if it even looks anywhere. And the dynamic of coming and going is gone. This doesn't mean you don't get up and walk out to the parking lot or drive your car to the drugstore. But that is an illusion. An illusion. It's unreal. It's vividly unreal. If you begin to see it and don't conclude anything about it, then your understanding will be, you won't be questioning what you're looking at.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Another question on YouTube from Av.
We'll get back to you in a minute, Naveed. Go ahead. Ask.
Is it useful to contemplate on why does the brain generate so much cognition that is not related to sensory perception? Or is the contemplation a subtle way to ignore facing the wall?
I'm not going to do the either or, but I'll just say sit more. Sit a lot. I would have to know you personally to know more about what's happening there. So, but the basic instruction that I give everyone until I get to know you better, and then I might modify it somewhat, is based on my experience over a long period of time of doing lots of different forms of meditation. The one that seems to be the most workable for just about anybody is shikantaza. It's also taught in the Mahamudra tradition and Dzogchen. Just consciousness only. Just sit down, hold still, watch the movement in the mind until you realize the truth yourself. So trying to figure out what the mind is doing and the brain is doing, I think that's a valid thing to do with your life, but you might want to spend some time looking at that which is doing the studying. Is there somebody? Is there a scientist? Is there, where is Monica Matea anyway? Is she on here? More? No? I can't see everybody. Oh, Naveed, I meant to get back to you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Navid bowing. You say that thoughts don't belong to us.
Yes.
Is that the same thing with the desire as well?
Yes.
Bowing.
Yes. There's no one who desires. Desire is dependently arisen, and it comes up. And if there's a body mind here, it's gonna collect an owner, or the owner is gonna collect that and use it to substantiate, reify that I'm here and I've been wronged, or I'm here and I deserve that, or I'm here and I really want that over there. I wonder what that costs. It's just a complete menagerie of things coming and going and coming and going, all looking for someone to reaffirm. That's how I felt that way a long time. It looks like when it comes out into the mind that it's showing up in us, in this body-mind complex. No, it is not. Consciousness does not, it enters and it comes and goes in the body, but it's not trapped by the body. It's the ego part of the mind, that ball of grasping and paranoia that is in the consciousness that is aligned with the body-mind complex. That's the paranoid part. But consciousness itself, when it's liberated, it has no location. It doesn't follow some kind of physics idea of location, and even physics. Maybe they'll get to the bottom. Maybe they will get to the bottom of things eventually and find out that nothing really exists in the way that we think it does. So more about that, Naveed.
Navid bowing. So they can be there, but they don't necessarily need to be fulfilled if there's no one there, right?
Kind of. Yeah, you can desire something, but you don't have to grasp at it. That area is taught differently with different teachers, different schools. But the way I talk about it is feel the desire. Don't get rid of desire. Why would you do that? That's a rhetorical question, isn't it? Why would you do that? Don't kill bunny rabbits. Understand that? You do not. Whatever shows up has a right to be there, is what I'm saying. Whatever shows up, and when I say it has a right, I'm saying it's not separate from anything else that's showing up. So therefore, it has to be there. It's not like, oh, this is wrong, I shouldn't be thinking that. Oh, this is better, I should be thinking more in this line. People teach us differently. You can see what do I have here? A few dozen students. I don't have hundreds, or let alone thousands, and I don't want them. Not that I could even get them if I wanted them, because what I'm teaching is untrustworthy. And why is it untrustworthy? Because I'm not going to guarantee you anything. You're going to have to do this yourself. I'm happy to kick you in the butt to help you, but I can't do it for you. And I'm not going to explain it to you in a way that you can grasp on, that will keep you from seeing what it is. Too much explanation. Some explanation is helpful to get you to the edge of the cliff, but you're going to have to look over that, if not jump over it. And is it an actual jump? No, I'm not going to have to jump. But in the mind stream, it may feel like it. You may feel put upon. You may feel threatened by the teacher or the teaching or even the community. But it's a spiritual path, not a mundane path of results. It is a spiritual path of intention, not a path of belief or disbelief or ignorance. So if you have a feeling, an emotion come up, it's just there. You just look at it. If you don't push it away, if you don't substantiate it, explain it, or validate it, or blame something for it, then it can't last. It will fade away. Even if you don't leave the desire for some kind of fulfillment. Or maybe I've got this all wrong. If you think I do, well then tell me how I'm misunderstanding. And I'll let you go on about 3 or 4 minutes until I see that you're probably going to win by keep letting you go, and then I'll interrupt you. There's no way to win there's no valid argument about ultimate truth. You have to see it. And if you see it, you realize you're not separate from anybody, even the person that's taking exception to you and trying to introduce you to particle physics, or trying to introduce you to ayahuasca, or try to introduce you to satipatthana or mindfulness awareness or this other kind of practice or studying tantric this or that. No, it's consciousness. It's done with the consciousness. It's done with the awareness. And if you're listening to me, you can do this. I can't guarantee it, but the only thing I can say is I know you can do it. I know you can see it. You might not do it in this lifetime, but start now. Are there more lifetimes? Not really, but it looks like that. And as long as it looks like that, we're going to keep coming back and checking in with this over and over again. I've been here many times, as have you. But is it the you that you identify as the ego? I'm not talking about that part of consciousness. I'm saying consciousness just as consciousness showing up as a life form. And then the life form goes away and the consciousness does not go anywhere, doesn't disappear because it has not appeared. This is a coming back to square one, and then probably should end. This is when illusion is speaking, because I know that what I'm saying is unreal. I know that what I'm saying is you can't believe it. I'm not asking you to believe it. Please don't offend me or disregard your own intelligence by accepting what I say just because I'm sitting up here running my mouth about something. I have to do this in order to point to something that is completely wordless. When you got a good dose of that last night. If it looks like you're ignoring and you give me permission, I'm coming to get you. If that scares you, you're probably in the wrong room. I only need one student to be a teacher. Is she here? Is he here? Are they here? Listen to what I'm saying. I'll give the rest of the talk, whatever that is. What did I say it was? Forklift? You said forklift?
4 o'clock.
See how easy that imagination just goes wherever it wants? Wherever it wants. 4 o'clock. Same thing as forklift. And what is the title of the talk?
Illusion listening.
Illusion listens. Is that it? Very good. Thank you so much.
May the merit of this penetrate into all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Jio san shi shi fu, shi son bu sa mo go sa, mo go ja ho ro mi. The 10 directions, the 3 times, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna, Paramita.
For those of you in the retreat, we'll be returning back to the retreat. Then go to your room.